The Toledo Rockets, under head coach Candle, won the MAC championship last season, and they are absolutely the favorite to do it again here in 2023. Coming in to this season, this is a Toledo team that returns a lot of talent. It's going to be one of the more talented teams the Mid-American Conference has to see this season. But with the Mid-American Conference starting to take a jump up in competition, and there are some key pieces still leaving this team, is that going to be too much for the Rockets team to handle? Or will this team go win the Mid-American Conference for the second straight year? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nathan. Welcome to my channel. Hey, I'm in a new setting. I know it doesn't look different because I have the green screen behind me, but I am back at college, so if acoustics sound a little bit different, that is why. Appreciate you guys being patient with me. Again, dealing with the whole move-in process, have to go through some training while I'm here. That's why I'm up here earlier than usual. So I appreciate all of you guys. But for those of you that don't know, I am predicting all 133 FBS level college football teams this summer. It means I'm doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. But there are more ways than that you can help me support my channel. Hey, you're doing one right now by watching the video, and you can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else that you guys are willing able to do to help me support my channel. So without further ado, let's start talking about the Toledo Rockets here in 2023, but we got to know how this is all going to work. We are going to go through a roster overview and look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as taking a look at the 2023 Rocket football schedule, and we'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. So without further ado, let's talk about the Toledo Rockets. If my slide would change here, there we go, in 2023. Of course, your head coach is Jason Candle. We'll mention his name again in a little bit when we go through that coaching roster, but let's take a look at the players that will be getting on the field for the Toledo Rockets here in 2023. First up, of course, the quarterback position. You are going to be returning both guys out of the quarterback room last year, and obviously the more notable one is DeQuan Finn, a phenomenal dual threat quarterback, may very well be the best quarterback in the Mid-American Conference this season. He threw for 2,260 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions last season. That was your leading passer, while being the second leading rusher on the team with 631 yards and 9 touchdowns on the ground. That 9 touchdowns, more than double anyone out of the running back room from last season. You do get your backup in Tucker Gleason back as well. Very experienced backup from last year, 884 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 picks. You'd like to see that completion percentage for Tucker get higher. By the way, the completion percentage for DeQuan Finn, around 60%. A very, very good quarterback, and he should be, again, for this Toledo Rockets team that returns quite a bit offensively. They only really lose a couple guys in the wide receiver room because your running back room remains fairly intact from the way it remained last season, or I guess from the way it was last season. Jaquez Stewart was your leading rusher last year, 770 yards and 4 touchdowns. He will be coming back. And then your third and fourth leading rushers, second and third in the running back room from last year, also come back. That's Penny Boone, 443 yards and 3 touchdowns for him, and Mikey Kelly, who had 398 yards and a touchdown for, or I should say a touchdown of his own last season. So you got two really good running backs behind Jaquez Stewart, who will be that feature back. Again, very deep running back room here for the Toledo Rockets. Now, in the wide receiver room, this is where you come across a couple of losses, as Demir Blankhamsey, your third leading receiver from last year with 512 yards and 3 touchdowns, is gone. And you're also going to be losing Mikel Barkley as well, 289 yards and 3 touchdowns for him last season. But the crux, the real leaders in this wide receiver room will come back. That is Jerjuan Newton, who was your leading receiver last year, 830 yards and 9 touchdowns last season. Devin Maddox is also coming back, second leading receiver with 548 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Thomas Zyros, I believe I said that last name right, although again, I probably didn't, will be that number 3 guy with Blankhamsey and Barkley leaving. You also get some transfers in Jaden Doughton and Don Munnerlin in as well to help give some depth to this wide receiver room. Now, in the tight end room, you do take a big hit here, as Jamal Turner is gone, was your leading receiver among tight ends and your 4th leading receiver overall with 378 yards, and was second on the team with 8 touchdowns, so was a really big part to this Toledo offense. You are going to be losing him. However, Anthony Torres and Lenny Cool will be back there in the tight end room for the Rockets this year. And on the offensive line, Mitchell Berg and Lavelle Dumont are gone. However, Tyler Long, Nick Rossi, and Vinny Scurry, I believe is how you say that last name, although again, apologies for mispronunciations. You do get a couple transfers in, but the most notable one, in my opinion, is Jackson Cannon, a former 3-star product out of high school. He is coming over from Mississippi State. Rod Orr is another one that I don't have up here, a former 4-star out of high school, coming over from Florida State. As now we take a look at the defense. What's the defense going to look like for the Toledo Rockets this season? Well, Dejuan Johnson, who was your best defensive player or your best player on the defensive line last season, second on the team with 5.5 sacks, and was a top 5 tackler on this team last year. That is a huge loss for this team. However, you want to name pretty much anyone else that was on this defensive line for the Rockets last year, they probably come back here in 2023. Judge Culpepper being at the forefront of that, was a top 10 tackler with 44 tackles and a sack last season. Darius Alexander, Kevon Butler, Terrence Taylor, Adrian Wolliver, and so many others will be coming back as well. Wolliver actually did have 4.5 sacks last season, 24 tackles. He can play defensive end linebacker. He's that sort of edge rush player, as is some of the guys we're going to talk about in this linebacker room. But Travian Ford, that's a name that you should know, a former 4-star out of high school coming over from Missouri. He'll play some big minutes on the defensive line for Toledo. Now, to the linebacker room I just mentioned, Deontay Johnson was the team's second leading tackler. He hit triple digits last year with 108, 3 sacks last season. Jamal Hines is also going to be gone. He led the team in sacks last year with 6.5. And then Nate Givhan is also gone. Apologies, that should be an A, not an E. He had 5 sacks, which was third on the team last season. However, Dallas Gant was your leading tackler last year, the former Ohio State transfer, 115 tackles, 5 pass defended for him last year. Jackson Barrow and Deshaun Holt, again, those guys can play edge rusher type abilities, but Dallas Gant, a true tight end there for that team. Now, when you take a look at the defensive back room, I couldn't really find any losses here. To me, everyone comes back on this defensive line. Maxon Hook, Nate Bauer, Zachary Ford, Quinion Mitchell, Chris McDonald, RJ Delancey, and Andre Fuller. Quinion Mitchell was a monster for this team last year, even though he is in that second row. 2 pick sixes, 5 interceptions, and has to be one of the leaders in the nation from last season, but 19 passes defended for Quinion Mitchell. He is an NFL talent to be certain. Your head coach is Jason Candle. Your offensive coordinator is Robert Weiner, and your defensive coordinator is Vince Carrez. Apologies again for any mispronunciations, but now that we've gone through the roster, let's take a look at the Toledo Rockets football schedule for 2023. Any game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road will be in italics or that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Rockets are going to win fairly handedly. Any game in yellow is a game that, hey, it's going to be a 50-50 type game. Maybe it's a back and forth, really close, tight-knit affair, but I do think the Rockets will pull out the win, and red is a loss. You start out your year on the road against a Power 5 opponent coming out of the Big Ten West. It is the Illinois Fighting Illini. Now that is a team that what you have to address. Chase Brown, that's a very notable loss, and you lose a ton of talent in that secondary as well. But besides that, they got a major upgrade at quarterback with Luke Altheimer coming into that program. Should be a really key piece. They still have some very, very solid defensive pieces, especially on that front seven. But I think that upgrade at quarterback is really going to do Illinois big things. Is really going to do big things for the Illinois Fighting Illini this season. Again, DeQuan Finn in this wide receiver room could give that secondary that's going to have to see a lot of guys slot in to new roles there some trouble. But overall, I do see Illinois, that defense being a little bit too much. And with Luke Altheimer at quarterback, that offense being able to make some plays, and the Fighting Illini will get the win there in week 1. Then you get an FCS level opponent here, Texas Southern. As a team, again, out of the FCS ranks, I think the Rockets are going to be able to win that game fairly easily. Now, this is an interesting one here. A group of 5 versus group of 5 matchup. You got the Mountain West versus the MAC as Toledo. Well, you get this one in the Glass Bowl, but you got to play a really tricky team out of the Mountain West Conference. It's San Jose State. They got one of the best quarterbacks representing that conference in Siobhan Cordero, the former Hawaii Rainbow Warrior. Yeah, some overhaul going over in the wide receiver room and some key pieces on defense leaving as well. But San Jose State is as equipped as anyone in the Mountain West Conference to make a run at a conference title game. When I look at this game here, I definitely see Toledo as the more talented team with a lot of returning pieces offensively. Will be able to make the San Jose State defense pay, again, as it's still trying to fit in some of those gaps. But make no mistake, I think this is going to be a close, competitive, very close, tight-knit affair. But I do believe that the Rockets at the end of the day will pull away with the win there against the San Jose State Spartans. And then you get into a little bit of a stretch here in conference play before you get to your final non-conference game, which we'll talk about when we get there. You get a home game here against Western Michigan. And Western Michigan, a team that did lose a lot to the transfer portal. There are a lot of key pieces that are leaving that team. However, when I look at this team up and down, I still see a pretty solid contender in the Mid-American Conference, maybe not for a conference championship game, but a team that I think is going to be able to make some noise, going to be able to keep things competitive with the Rockets, but I do not think they will beat the Rockets. So that's 3 straight wins for Toledo after the loss in week 1. And I think they'll make it 4 here against the Northern Illinois Huskies. Again, not a game that you can take lightly. Northern Illinois still got a lot of very good pieces coming back offensively, defensively. That's going to be a very sound football team this year. Could be a team we see get back to a MAC conference championship game. However, again, I think Toledo just a little bit more talented. There's a lot of returning production coming back to this team, and it's going to come in handy against a team like Northern Illinois. So that'll be a win for the Rockets in that regard. I think they'll get an easy win on the road against Ball State. Ball State over the past couple of seasons, not really lived up to what we have seen out of them in seasons prior. In seasons prior to that, there are some nice talented pieces that are going to be leaving that roster this season as well. And again, I still like a lot of the talent they have there, but this Toledo team is going to be something special this year. I got that as a win in my book for the Toledo Rockets. Then you got to go on the road, play the UMass Minutemen. Should be an easy win for the Rockets here. However, you cannot overlook the UMass Minutemen this year. Why? Why, Nate? It's UMass. They're at the bottom of the FBS every year. Well, they added a lot of Power 5 transfers this season. They had a lot of Power 5 transfers, some former 3-stars and even former 4-stars coming out of high school as well. Some really, really talented players. Don Brown's group is improving. Now, will it be enough to beat a team like Toledo? I do not think so. However, that's a team that definitely look out for winning at least 2 games this season. UMass is going to be a lot more talented than they have been in the past, but this still should be an easy win for the Toledo Rockets. Now, you have a very, very tricky game coming up here on the road against Miami, Ohio. Not necessarily has been one of the top teams in the conference throughout their history. However, as of late, this has been a very competitive team. I believe a team that's even won a MAC championship in recent memory as well. Their starting quarterback is coming back, Gabbert. He's got a lot of nice talent around him. They got a lot of leaders coming back on defense, but focusing on the quarterback battle. DeQuan Finn versus Gabbert. This is going to be one of the best quarterback battles we see all year throughout the Mid-American Conference. And I think Gabbert's going to be able to get the best of Toledo here. Yes, there is a lot of returning production on this Toledo defense, and I really do like the Rockets this year. I just think Gabbert is going to be able to make some plays. There are a lot of skill position players that are really good with this Miami roster. And when you take a look on the defensive end, a lot of leaders come back that I think will be able to slow down this Rockets attack. And Miami of Ohio, I think, will pull out the win against the Toledo Rockets. But going into their bye week here, when you get weekday action now starting, I think Toledo's going to get on a roll. Buffalo was a very good team last year, and they do return a lot of key pieces from a team that was pretty solid in the Mid-American Conference last year. In fact, pretty darn close to end up going to a conference championship game. Again, however, I think Toledo going to learn from some things that Miami, Ohio was able to beat them with. You have an extra week to prepare for this game, and it's at home. I think that's a win for the Toledo Rockets in the Glass Bowl. Same thing with Eastern Michigan. That's going to be another team out of the Mid-American Conference this year that's going to be very, very competitive, but Toledo keeps that late season momentum rolling in action, and that'll be a win for them there as well. Too much talent offensively, defensively. Again, I really like what the Rockets roster has this season. On the road against Bowling Green, you can't discount because the Falcons are going to be able to sneak up on some people this season, be a really solid football team out of the Mid-American Conference, some really good returning pieces to that team. However, I still believe that's a win for the Rockets. DeQuan Finn is just going to be a little bit too much for that Bowling Green defense to handle, and so Toledo there will win that game. And then Central Michigan really kind of fell off a cliff last season, and I don't see them getting a whole lot much better here in 2023. While there are some good pieces to that team, your quarterback is going to be leaving that team as well as a lot of other pieces. So even though that's a road game, that I think should be an easy win for the Rockets. So I got Toledo sitting here at 10-2. And while you do lose a conference game, this is a very manageable schedule. Toledo has a lot of returning production. You got one of, if not the best quarterbacks in the entire conference, and this is going to be another really good season for the Toledo Rockets. I easily could see them marching their way to another Mid-American Conference championship. But that's going to do it for my thoughts on the Toledo Rockets. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video.